Right, so maybe I would say a little bit more about what we were talking about before.
Yeah, please.
With the Hutchison effect.
Yes.
Because now there's something else about when it comes to this thing where we talked about an awesome power that's kept secret.
Yeah.
Because the Hutchison effect and similar free energy techniques could be used to do great good or great evil.
Yeah.
And so could something else. Imagine if you could control the weather.
Yeah.
Now, this is not something we need to imagine. I think the technology exists to control the weather. In fact, it's not even secret. It's been known for a long time that you can create rain clouds by spraying certain chemicals into them. Into small clouds. You spray these. Silver iodide is a common compound that's used.
Yeah.
You can spray it in there with an aircraft or with I think certain artillery shells and things like that can be used. And the cloud will expand, and you'll get condensation. And when you have condensation, you have rain.
Yeah.
And this could do wonderful good. I mean, if you're in an area which is stricken by drought, you could use this technique to create rain clouds so it rains. And also, it could be used as a terrible weapon, and it has been used as a weapon. In the Vietnam War, in the late 1960s, the Americans used it to destroy what's called the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Yeah.
Now, in the Vietnam War, the country was divided, and the North was waging war on the South, and the Americans were backing up the South.
Yeah.
But they used to send armaments and supplies to their guerrilla force in the South by what's called the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was basically just some paths where people used to ride bicycles, and they used to carry them on panniers on bikes.
Okay.
And it was pretty much impossible to bomb these trails because they were just little paths through the woods.
Yeah.
And if an aircraft flew over, everyone used to just pull their bike into the bushes, crouch down and hide till it had gone.
Yeah.
There's not a lot you can do to stop people doing that, even to use the path. But then the Americans had the bright idea of increasing the Asian monsoon to the point where rivers would flood, they'd burst their banks, and they would wash the paths away, destroy the bridges, break down, because some of these paths ran alongside rivers and things like that. And it worked. Now, I believe this weapon was tested, and it was tested in what's become known as the Lynmouth disaster. I don't know if you've heard of the Lynmouth disaster. It happened in 1952.
Where?
In Lynmouth, which is on the north coast of Devon, just near Exmoor. So it's
Yeah.
a lovely little village. But there was a massive rainstorm there on Exmoor, and a record-breaking rainfall caused a huge flash flood that tore through the village, came down the valley from Exmoor, tore through the village, washing almost everything out into sea.
Yeah.
38 people were killed. Some of their bodies were never recovered. Now, this has been called a freak of nature, which resulted a natural disaster caused by a freak of nature. However, it's well known that the RAF were doing cloud seeding experiments above Exmoor at the time, and I wouldn't be surprised if what we're looking at here is a test. They were testing the weapon. They decided to target Lynmouth deliberately to see how well this weapon would work. So they used the people of Lynmouth as guinea pigs. They killed them in a human experiment of a weapon.
Yeah.
They would do. I mean, these people, like I say, if they're not psychopathic reptilians, they'll do that. They don't care.
Mm.
Now, in 1959, Walt Disney made a short documentary called Eyes in Outer Space.
Right.
It was narrated by Walt Disney himself, partly animated and it was partly featured. It was a futuristic documentary.
Okay.
Which predicted a lot of what we see today in terms of meteorological satellites. You get satellite photos monitoring the weather. The difference is, it talks about a hypothetical future scenario in which weather could actually be controlled to the point where hurricanes, which of course do terrible damage to parts of the world, including the United States where this film was made, could actually be deflected out to sea using various techniques which included what's known as chemtrails, in other words, aircraft spraying chemicals into the sky, which changed sunlight warming and things like that, and cause wind direction to change, which will blow the hurricane out into sea.
Yeah.
And this was an example of how this technology could be used to do good. It could save lives, and it could save millions and billions of pounds worth of damage.
Yeah.
By deflecting these hurricanes out into sea,
Yeah.
where they would just spend themselves out in the sea. But you could use that same technology to direct a hurricane deliberately to a specific area, and that could be a terrible weapon. You could send it, say, towards a naval base or something like that, or towards an area you want to target, and it would destroy that area, and you would have complete plausible deniability. You could say, we were lucky, it was a freak of nature.
Mm.
So that's one of the things I think the Hutchison effect is used, or not the Hutchison effect, well, maybe something related to that is being used for, and this calls into question perhaps certain natural disasters that happen to have happened at convenient times.
Yeah. Which I think they have used this year, in fact, haven't they, with the hurricanes that bombarded.
Well, there was a hurricane a couple of months ago, do you remember?
Yeah.
In October.
That's right.
And I remember it was on the 30th anniversary of the Great Storm, 1987, and I thought, that was the hurricane that hit Britain.
Yeah.
Devastated much of the south of England. And poor old Michael Fish, the weather forecaster, he's the guy who said, don't worry, there's no hurricane coming.
Yeah.
How wrong he was. And I just can't help thinking that whoever's behind this agenda has a rather ghoulish sense of humour.
Yeah.
To have brought in that big hurricane that went right across Ireland and Scotland, and to have done that on that anniversary is just, I think, is rather.
And then what they said was that there was the reason on that day the sun became very red.
Yes.
And they said that was dust from the Sahara.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in the sky. UFO type.
But if you can imagine the hurricane coming from the west, the Sahara is in the south.
Yeah.
So, and also the last time that happened, there was a lot of dust settling on cars.
I remember, yeah. So you get a film of dust over things. Yeah. I think it was really weird because I went out to work that day and I was like, things were normal. It was a bit cloudy to begin with, but then the temperature rose, and this was in October. And I took off my jacket and I stripped down to my t-shirt. It was so hot.
Wow.
But there was a wind. But it was a hot wind. And it wasn't a hurricane force wind where I was. It was just like I was at the edge of it where we were in Oxford. Mm-hmm. Ireland got the worst of it. But I looked up and the sky changed colour. The clouds were like dark blue.
Yeah.
And the sun, as you said, was like an orange blob.
Yeah.
It looked like almost the sun at sunset.
Yeah.
And there was like these lighter blue clouds scurrying underneath the big main clouds. And it was really, really unearthly. Never seen that before.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very strange. And I remember thinking to myself, if someone's doing this deliberately, and I thought to myself, this is an awesome power that they have, which they could use for good or bad, couldn't they? Well, personally, I think the temptation to use it to do for something bad is pretty obvious. That's what they're going to do. That's very worrying now. So, are they reptilians? That's the question. I mean, are they? David Icke talks about reptilians.
Yeah.
It's surprising how many people, though, have seen them shapeshift.
Yeah.
From human to reptilian form. I mean, this is.
I remember when. Oh God, I can't remember the name of the guy now. He used to present sort of like current affairs comedy sort of David Frost?
David Icke?
No, Frost.
David Frost, oh yeah.
Right.
Great
and
interview.
he interviewed that American president. I've forgotten his name too.
Nixon?
That's it.
President Nixon, yeah. Right.
And as he was talking to him, I saw Nixon's face begin to crumble.
Oh my God.
You know, it began to collapse.
Yeah. Oh.
And then there was like a quick recovery.
To see that, because that's on YouTube, that famous interview.
Okay. you'll see it on that.
I'd be keen to see that because see some of the people who are often reported to shapeshift are U.S. presidents.
Ah.
Now, what you'll find is, I mean, with a few exceptions such as Trump, I think Trump may be one of them. The American presidents all come from aristocratic bloodlines, dating back to European aristocracy.
Yeah.
And in the case of Obama, also again we have that link to the Black African royals as well.
Yeah.
Because he was a part of that from Kenya. His part of his family goes back to Kenya. So it's if this is a hereditary thing, if it's certain families we're talking about, these 13 elite families, and they are actually not human as we define human, and they just look human. They can make themselves look human. It's quite likely the American presidents are part of this as well.
Yeah.
The U.S. independence, when the U.S. became independent, they abolished the monarchy, as did France, did it in the same period of time. But what you'll often find is that they bring in new rulers who are also part of the same bloodlines. You see this with George Washington, who was a Freemason. He was connected to several elite groups and things like that, and his ancestry as well in Britain, where he comes from, was very much along those lines. So what are they? I don't know. They're not. I wouldn't say they're aliens such as aliens that come down in a flying saucer.
Yeah.
They're more like something from another parallel world.
Yeah.
That is interfering with ours. A parallel universe. Which has somehow found some way using some sort of consciousness to invade and infest our universes as maybe as like a parasite does with a host.
Yeah.
The reptilians could be a symptom of that.
Could be.
In which case, freeing ourselves from them is that's a bit tricky, isn't it? How do you fumigate yourself or delouse yourself from an interdimensional parasite? I don't know. Very odd, very strange, isn't it? But maybe David Icke says it's to do with consciousness. You can actually change your consciousness. Change of consciousness will result in us no longer being kind of the fallow ground for this parasite. To use the analogy of the parable of the sower, where Jesus talks about the word of God falling amongst the thorns and the stony ground, and then falls on the fallow ground and sprouts. In a sense, maybe we have become the fallow ground for the Illuminati. And the solution, therefore, is for us to become the stones and thorns from their perspective. I mean, how you do that? Well, maybe that's what we've got to work out. Because in a sense, it's a statement about us. The fact that we allow this to happen, we sit back and we just let it happen.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. It wouldn't be... I'm not saying that means we're accountable, but in a way we are.
We are.
Because we could put a stop to this. We could say no, and it'll all be over. The power that the Illuminati have is actually the power that we abdicate. The Illuminati actually play a passive role. It's our willful abdication and our willful ignorance that they exploit. And
well, maybe that will come to pass when we begin to change our language.
In what way?
There's a person called... Oh, it's just gone out my head. Something Cat. Who was a journalist, and she calls it quantum languaging or something like that. It's where you take responsibility for yourself and what you think and what you say, and you get out of everyday language.
Right.
You get out of that. You invent a word, maybe, to replace another.
Not heard
So-
of that.
You've not heard it? I know, it's quite new. In fact, yeah.
I'm interested in languages, in language change and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Then I'll send you that video because
thanks.
it's very interesting.
As if again, maybe this is something that we can use for positive or negative purposes.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, she said she could have offered her services, you know, to the military, but she decided not to.
oh, good for her.
You know.
Just as well, yes.
You know.
But I suppose we.
All the bankers.
Yeah. But I'm well aware that when it comes to language and changing language, that it's again this is part of this weapon, this weaponization that I talk about.
It is.
It's a psychological weapon,
Yeah,
weapon of
that's
psychological
right.
warfare.
And it's all frequencies too. Language is frequency. Each word has a frequency.
It does. It has words have power. Language has power.
Absolutely.
I love language. I'm a writer, and I love language.
Yeah.
I love to speak. I love to write, and these things are very important to me. And
Yeah.
it's one of the things that disturbs me the most, actually. And this is something that can most obviously relates to people's everyday lives. That language control can be very destructive.
Absolutely.
And George Orwell pointed this out in the book 1984, because 1984 was this, well, I'd say, prophetic, clairvoyant almost vision of the future, which was from somebody who somehow worked out what was going to happen, what they had planned. It could have been because of George Orwell's links to the Fabian Society, which is connected to this network, which includes Common Purpose and the Tavistock Institute.
You see?
But obviously, I think he may have wanted to get the word out and to warn people. But of course, if he'd written a factual book about what he learned, what would the response be? He's a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
He's a nutter. He's a loony. He's a conspiracy theorist. But he learned an important lesson I have as well, because of my own books, which are the same. Is that you can get a lot of information out through fictional allegory. And of course, Orwell did this, and he managed to communicate far more effectively the information he wanted to get out through simply an imaginary story.
Yeah.
This is what I do with my books.
Yeah.
I mean, I've written another book since we last spoke, Roswell Revealed, which is remember I'd be talking about Roswell Rising. I don't have any copies with it now, but I do have a Roswell Revealed, The World After Disclosure, available at all good bookshops now. Shameless plug. My books are the same, but in this imaginary world of the future, they have this thing called Newspeak, which is a degenerate language, which is based on English, but it has as fewer words as possible, and it's so tightly controlled that it's impossible to rebel, because you can't think about rebelling, because you can't speak about rebelling. It means disobedience to Big Brother is impossible.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable.
Yeah.
And they said any thoughts along those lines was called crime think, thought crime.
Yeah.
But we have that in our world. We have all kinds of strictures put upon language.
Yeah.
In all kinds of different ways. I mean, it's a good example is you have euphemisms, things like collateral damage.
Which is called Danny Katz.
It's called
Danny Katz.
Danny Katz is the name of the person. Oh
Yeah.
right, it's come to you. I'll look that. Yeah, I'll be interested to find out more about that. Yeah. But, collateral damage you hear used in the news a lot, and it means basically the killing of innocent people in war. Supposedly inadvertently, although we've often found that in reality it's deliberate targeting.
Yeah.
That's called collateral damage, which is a kind of soft and cuddly way of saying it. So it's a euphemism. When you hear that word, you don't react the same way as if they said, bombing innocent civilians and things like that. If you said that, everyone would be up in arms. They call it collateral damage. People don't react in quite the same way.
Well, they don't know what it means.
And it's really quite worrying. I mean, I actually got into trouble at work some years before I was eventually sacked. This was in the late 90s. I got into no, it was actually in 2005. Because I was a theatre porter. I was working in the operating theatres.
Okay.
And they decided to change our job title to Operating Department Orderly.
Oh.
ODO. And so from thenceforth, they came to us and they said, "You're no longer porters, you are ODOs." I remember everyone started calling us ODOs, and I was horrified. I like to be called a porter. I'm proud to be a porter. Porter is an old word. It dates back to the Latin portare, meaning to carry, and it's something I valued very much.
Yeah.
It's something I'd had to fight for. I'd shed blood and tears and sweat for that word, and it's something I wasn't willing to give up.
Mm.
And when I said, "Don't call me an ODO, call me a porter," I got in the most terrible trouble.
Wow.
And again, it's very illustrative, isn't it? Because, as I said, they tolerate so much in the NHS. They tolerate incompetence, laziness, on a vast scale. I mean,
They do.
you can go in there and you can be people turn up late every day. They just turn up late. They just turn up late every single day. They'd be late for work. They sneak away early. They vanish at certain times, so they do much less work than everybody else. None of those people ever got into trouble.
Yeah.
They were never even reprimanded.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that. I turned up on time every day.
Yeah.
I would work hard. I worked properly. The only time I went off sick is when I was really ill.
Mm.
Yeah, I say, look, I don't want to be called an ODO, I want to be called a porter. And the response from management was immediate and decisive. They came down on me immediately. And it illustrates what their priorities are. And they said, look, you can't do this. We're forcing you. It's in your contract, and stuff like that. We're forcing you to use this new job title. I said, I'm not doing it.
Mm.
And I could have been sacked then and there, but what I did was I managed to transfer out of the department. I said, there's no valour in being a false start, so I just said, okay, look, can I transfer out of the department?
Mm.
They said, okay. So they kicked me, even though I was by far their most valuable member of staff in the department, they kicked me out. They said, no, okay, go then, go on. Because they don't care about whether you're good or bad.
No.
I mean, really, if in the NHS, I mean, my advice to anyone in the NHS today is just be the most. If you want to get on well, a good strategy, an art of living, an art of working, is to be the laziest and most incompetent shitbag you can possibly get away with. Pardon my language.
Yeah.
But be as lazy and the most incompetent as you can get away with, because then that's when you get the greatest dividend. Don't be if you're a good employee, you don't get any thanks for it. You just get more. You just put upon more and more. And if you step out of line, they'll come down hard on you. If you make a stand on a matter of principle, you'd ever would be if you're just some lazy tosser who doesn't give a damn. I mean, I'm being facetious here. I don't actually recommend that you do that. I'm just saying this is me being bitter about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's an example of what I'm talking about when it comes to Newspeak. About the fact that so much importance was put on the need to change our job title. From porter to ODO. ODO is just this politically correct, gimmicky little instruction phrase. It's ODO. It's just pathetic. There's no way I was going to call myself that.
Yeah.
Not when I carried the name porter so proudly for so many years.
Yeah.
And so I almost got sacked then. I could have been kicked out, 7 years before I actually was. But I got the feeling I'm on borrowed time here. There's a limit to how much longer I'm going to be. They'll tolerate me.
Yeah.
Because I can't. I have to say something when these things come up. I can't just bite my tongue and just get on with it. I can't. I feel awful. So that was it was very educational for me though, not just in the mindset of the NHS, but the importance placed upon language forms.
Yeah.
And I've noticed many other subtle changes to language, and it goes very much along the lines of political correctness, what's known as political correctness. which is supposedly to use languages that doesn't offend anyone. However, it actually, I've spoken to people who are supposedly to be beneficiaries of these policies, such as black people, women, homosexuals, etc. And I said, "What do you think about all this?" And they generally say, well, "We don't want all this. This is patronising."
Yeah.
Because it's not, the reason it's not intended to benefit those people. The intention is to mess with our heads, whether you're black or white, man or woman, gay or straight.
Yeah.
It's intended to get in here and alter the way you think and feel. And one thing it's supposed to do, it's supposed to make you guard, firstly to filter everything you say very carefully. Because you'll find that people have been punished very publicly, like public figures, for deviating from this politically correct script, even in very, very minor ways. We had, what's his name, the actor who played Sherlock. He made some comment about, I think he talked about this black person he was in a play with, and he called him a coloured man or something like that. He didn't use a racially abusive term. He didn't say, "Oh, nigger" or something like that.
Yeah.
He just said, "Oh, coloured man" or something like that. And he was castigated by his producers, and the media made a fuss about it. There was a Twitter storm. Very often these things happen in social media. You get Twitter storms on people and things like that. And the black guy he was working with on this show was really upset as well. Not by what Cumberbatch, Benedict Cumberbatch, that's his name, not by what he said, but by the response.
Right.
He said, "This doesn't offend me. This is not offensive what this man has done."
Yeah.
But it was too late. I mean, he made a big public apology and things like that. And you get and there's all kinds of different words you're not allowed to use anymore. Like you can't use the word actress now.
Can you not?
If you're and you see it on TV. No one uses the word actress. They say actor for both male and female thespians. Don't you notice that?
And I have actually
Check
noticed
it out.
it. I didn't know
You never
it
hear the word
was
actress.
mandatory.
You never hear the words barman and barmaid. You hear the word bartender, which is an American term.
Yeah.
However, it has been brought in over here just so they can eliminate those two words, those gender-specific words.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't really serve any. It doesn't really help. It doesn't make people feel any better. I mean, it's almost like a victimless crime. Do you know what I mean? It's it's saying barman or barmaid is perfectly harmless.
So it's not really a crime.
No, it's simply refers to the sexual identity of the person doing the job. So a barman is clearly male. A barmaid is clearly female.
An actor and an actress.
Yeah, an actress is obviously a woman.
Yeah.
But they've removed these words. There's no one's decided to do this. It's not been put out to a poll. They've not asked anyone. They just suddenly started using these words on TV. They made a decision. Some of these people from Common Purpose or whatever made a decision on TV.
Yeah.
To say from now on TV we're going to use these words instead.
Yeah.
And people will let's watch people fall into line. People do. To the point where now they say, "Oh, Julia Roberts is a great actress," and they go, "Sorry, actor," and they'll stop themselves. They'll feel that moment of guilt. It'll feel like, "Oh my God, I've said something wrong."
Yeah.
I said actress. Oh my God! And if it's someone, obviously it's someone public, then there's the usual Twitter storm and things like that. But even in normal life, you get that moment of guilt, the moment of you pull yourself up and you go, "I shouldn't have said that."
Yeah.
Even though what you said is completely harmless.
Yeah.
And that is newspeak. That is this development of corrupt, backward language.
Well, it's weird.
To me, it's just pointless. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help. It's not there to avoid offending people. I mean, it's not. I mean, because the people who I've spoken to people about this, and they find it offensive. Like I said, they find it patronising. So it's not to avoid offending. It's designed to mess with our heads. It's to get inside our heads and mess them up. It's very, very crafty how they do this. You also see on public toilets, you no longer see gentlemen and ladies. You see men, women, or male or female.
Yeah.
So they've removed a couple of words now. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a couple. The point of the Newspeak Dictionary in 1984 was to eliminate as many words as possible. So if you have English is a wonderful language because we have a huge vocabulary and many different synonyms. Like we talk about the scent of a rose, the aroma of food. These are all words that mean a smell or even stench or odour for a bad smell.
Yeah.
Now, what the purpose of Newspeak is to make language as bland and unsubtle and uncreative as possible. So you remove all those different synonyms and you just have one word, smell.
Okay.
That's where I think we're going. I think that's where it's heading. And so you eliminate, so you've got much words. So you could also replace, you could have prefixes and things like that which reverse meaning. So you get away with the word bad and you just put ungood. Ungood is the bad. So you can get rid of the word bad then, because ungood means something that's not good. And you do away with the word very and you just say plus. This is what Newspeak Dictionary. And if it's even more, then use double plus. You put double plus ungood means extremely bad.
Oh my god.
I think Orwell knew what was coming. He really did. And like I said, it's all part of this. It's all part of this campaign to put mental shackles on us, and it's very sinister. It really is. It's something you have to resist.
Yeah. Yeah. So first I think we'd have to really determine the meaning of words before we actually use them, because words have vibration. They affect us.
Yeah, I mean, if you're speaking to somebody and they're talking, I mean, very often the style of words they're using can give off subtle hints about what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And it could be you suddenly with someone and for no reason at all you suddenly feel yourself backing off from them and thinking there's something wrong with that person. And it's nothing they've done or particularly said or what. It's just you get that, it's a subliminal thing.
Yeah.
It's subliminal.
Yeah.
And one of the things that political correctness and Newspeak does, it removes that ability. So you no longer have that ability to discern from what people are saying. Because language is just simply controlled. It's simply something controlled which is imposed from outside. But I mean, it works the other way around too when you're talking about vibration in language, because you can meet someone and you find them particularly appealing. You might really like them. And you don't know why, you're not sure. You just get some feeling of warmth from them. And again, I think it's because of the vibration that the words are giving off.
Yeah.
And that also would be stripped from us by the Orwellian language agenda. That would also be gone, which is another reason to oppose it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they want to turn us into robots, effectively.
I think they're determined to.
Well, we know. I think it goes down. We're going down many different routes. This is moving off just language and psychological warfare into biological warfare and electronic biological electronic warfare. And there's many different forms this takes. Now, I think I was talking off. We were talking about. I was talking to Jimmy off camera earlier on about this person who talks about reducing the population, about the Georgia Guidestones.
Right.
And I mean, the Georgia Guidestones are this strange monument that just appeared.
Yeah.
In Georgia, USA.
Yeah.
In 1982, I believe. No one knows who put them there, but they have several messages. It's a very it's like an occult, Neolithic monument, so to speak. But it has lots of things associated with Freemasonry and stuff like that. It has lots of similarities to what you find in Freemasonic temples. And it says, among other things, keep the population below 500 million, the global population below 500 million. Well, that's barely 10% of what we have. So, if they want to reduce the population of 500 million, how are they going to do it?
God knows.
Well, they can reduce the number of children we have.
Yeah, which they are doing.
Yes. People are it varies from country to country, but people are reproducing, especially in the developed West. People are reproducing at a far lower rate.
That's right.
And there's many reasons for this. It's partly they put a lot of pressure on you financially to have having a child is like taking out a mortgage. You know, you
Yes.
have all this financial pressure put on you.
Yeah.
Then they have the breakdown of the family, the destruction of the family,
Yeah.
which has been done, which again it ties into this cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
As they said over 100 years ago, we need to destroy the family if we're going to have the revolution. And what you see now, you have social workers, who are common purpose trained,
Yeah.
who try to find ways of taking children away from parents.
That's right. You know that in courts, that the children's courts are always held in camera.
Yeah, I had a very narrow escape from this myself with my own child.
Yeah.
And luckily my child's grown up now, she's 22, but when she was like about 10, we almost had her taken into care.
Oh.
It was a real, I mean, I didn't know then what I know now quite
Yeah.
much. I'd been much more concerned if I'd known then what I know now.
Yes.
But again, common purpose plays an essential role in this. Brian Gerrish has done some really good work exposing this, as has Ian R. Crane, several other people.
Yeah.
But you find that it's got to the point now where social services is expanding and mutating. These people are trained by common purpose, and they always look for reasons to break up families.
Yeah.
At the same time, so people having less children, they're having them later in life, and they're finding it more difficult in various different ways. Firstly, like I say, it's social pressure and financial pressure not to have children. Then you have feminism. What does that say to women?
Gosh.
It says, don't have children, go out and get a career. You don't need a man in your life.
Yeah.
You're free and liberated without that.
And then you've got this gender swapping.
Well, that's another thing, yeah. You have people getting confused about whether they're men or women. And you get people, like you say, call themselves gender fluid or binary queer. And there's all these other names. And there's up to, I think there's 40 of these different genders. And the reason this is happening may have something to do with chemicals that are being put into the air and the water, which are confusing people. And again, that brings us into another area, which I want to go into. But first, I'll just mention what feminism says to women. It says it encourages them, like to say, don't having families is a detriment because it actually makes you a slave to the husband and things like that. Yeah, but it also says, it's actually a good thing to split up the family. It's a good thing to leave your husband.
Oh.
It's actually it's beneficial. It's beneficial to you. It's beneficial to the child. If you split up from your husband and you leave your husband, because he's a horrible person anyway, because he's a man.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned like the gender confusion. This is known as sexual dysphoria, which more and more people are suffering from.
Yeah.
And I think this is to do with. Oops. Oh, it's just I think that's the NSA or GCHQ. I said something politically incorrect.